I graduated college, I had $800 to my name and a dream to make it as creative in Los Angeles. Fast forward to me being almost 30, and I've been a full-time creative for over 3 years, making 6 figures. Today, I'm gonna share with you 10 things I wish I knew in my early 20s about money as someone that doesn't come from money and had to figure out everything on her own. Hi, my name is Janu, and I talk about all things mindful and sustainable living. The first mistake I see a lot of people making is not knowing the cost of their ideal life. I feel like when you ask someone what their dream is, they'll say a big car, a big house. You're never gonna get there until you know how much it costs and the steps you need to take in order to get there. What I did is I created a Notion template that helped me kind of write out my ideal dream life. Like, of course, you can play around with numbers, you can guess, but I think it's just a good idea to know how much your dream life costs, because then you can know what you're actually working towards. A lot of people think that you need to make $1 million plus a year to live that dream life, but more often than none, you actually don't need that much if you list out what you want and how much it costs. And after you finish watching the entire video, go to the Notion template that I linked in the description box below and fill out what your ideal life costs. I think this is really important because it helps you get to where you actually want to go. So for example, if one day you want to buy a $2 million house, then you can say to yourself, okay, this is how much a down payment's gonna cost. Now you know what number you need to hit in order to get that house, for example, versus, oh, I just wanna live in a mansion. Like, that's not gonna really get you anywhere, but if you're very specific about what it is that you want, you're more likely to achieve it. And I think this also goes with goals in general, because when you're just working towards these loose goals, you're just mindlessly working and you don't know where you're actually working towards. But if you're clear and specific as to what those goals are, you're more likely to achieve them. So be very clear on what it is that you actually want, be specific, write it out, and go after it. The next mistake that I see a lot of people make, and I made myself, is not having the right mindset. A lot of people, when they do money videos, they talk about having a frugal mindset, a frugal way of living, but I actually don't adhere to that because I feel like that mindset ends up holding you back. For me growing up, I was always trying to save money, and I had this mindset of not having enough and always being scared of not having enough, but that's not the mindset that you need to be in order to have an abundance in your life. So now my mindset is I need to make more money and not that I need to save money. Of course you should be saving. I think you understand what I'm saying in terms of having a frugal mindset, a mindset of lack versus a mindset of abundance, and a mindset of, okay, I just need to make more and find other opportunities versus the other way around. I even say affirmations around money, especially when I find myself kind of going back to how I used to think, and I'll say money is my friend, money flows to me freely and easily. Whatever I need to hear, I say it to myself until I actually believe it, because your words really do have power, and sometimes you gotta trick your brain into believing things that you may not believe yet, but you eventually will. I remember when I was in LA, I got this audiobook called You Are a Badass at Making Money, and I've listened to it so many times, and it really is big on mindset, and even these affirmations that I said earlier come from that book, and I would highly recommend it. I'll put it in the description box below for you, but listen to it over and over. Like, you gotta get in the right mindset when it comes to money. Money is not a bad thing. Money is your friend. Money can do amazing things for you. It's just when people don't use it properly and use it for bad things that money can be a bad thing. But money is here to help you, and you are meant to have an abundance of everything in life. This does not mean that you need to live beyond your means, but instead think about the 30 or 40-year-old version of yourself and how they would think. There's a really big difference between how poor people think and how rich people think, and it's really night and day. So ask yourself, what would my 30, 40, 50-year-old self say, and how would they think? And that's how I tend to live my life. The third mistake that I see a lot of 20-year-olds making, and that I also made myself, is not starting a retirement fund. I know when you're in your early 20s, you're like, oh, I'm 50, 60, 70, 80, it's so far away. And yes, that may be true, but you have to start making decisions now to set yourself up for success later on in life. You don't want to be out here 70 years old, working, worried about money. You want to be relaxing on a beach somewhere. So you have to think about, how can I take care of my future self now? If you're American, I highly recommend opening a Roth IRA. Even if you don't have a lot of money to put into it right now, something is better than nothing. According savings in your wallet, starting at age 23, you need to put away just $14 per day to reach 1 million by age 67. A Roth IRA is an individual retirement account to which you contribute after tax dollars, so after you pay taxes. Your contributions and earnings can grow tax-free, and you can withdraw them tax-free and penalty-free after age 59 and a half. Basically, if you try to take that money out before you turn 59 and a half, there will be taxes and penalties. I've only learned about this 2 years ago, and so I've started putting in the max. So the first year that I put money into it, the max was $6,000, the following year was $6,500, and this year is $7,000. And as you can see, based off of my returns right here, that you definitely make money back. This is definitely a long-term game plan, not a short-term. And these numbers will definitely fluctuate because this is also based off of the stock market. One of the biggest mistakes that I see people making when they open up a Roth IRA is that they don't actually invest the money. So you can't just put money into, let's say, a Vanguard investment account. So I have my account with Vanguard. You put money into it and then you have to invest it. A lot of people just have the money sitting there and then it's not doing anything. The money is just there and it's not being invested at all. So you have to make sure you're investing it. What most people recommend is investing in an index fund like the S&P 500. Basically, the S&P 500 is 500 of the top companies in the US. So when you invest into the S&P 500, you're investing into 500 companies versus just investing in 1 or 2 companies. The reason why a lot of people do this is because it's just less risky because you're investing in 500 versus, 2 or 3 companies. I'll put a whole bunch of resources in the description box for you because I know a lot of this can be very overwhelming. I'll put books, I'll put some websites you can check out because all of this is very important to know. And if you're not American, figure out what your equivalent is and get started with investing in your retirement account. The next mistake I see a lot of people making is not having self-control. Now, this is a big one for anyone at any age, but this is definitely very true when it comes to money. You have to have self-control when it comes to money. So a tip that I recommend is if there's something you really want, let's say you really want a purse and it's kind of expensive, but you really want it. So I would leave it in your cart online for maybe a week or even a month. It depends on, what the rule is for you. But typically, if it's something kind of expensive, I will sort of think on it for a month or so. And if I still really want it, and obviously I'm not, and I'm still paying my bills and doing everything I'm supposed to be doing, I'll get it. Give yourself that time and space to think about if this is a purchase that you really want and just be more mindful in the way that you're spending your money and the things that you're purchasing. Because oftentimes too, we're bombarded with all these ads on social media, but it's important to be intentional about where you're spending your money because a lot of it ends up as waste, ends up in landfill, and it is destroying our planet. So I think overall, it's just really important to be mindful about your spending habits. I think it's also important to point out that everyone's priority is different. I know sometimes people will say, oh, you shouldn't get that $5 coffee, or oh, you shouldn't spend money on your nails. But if that's your one thing of self-care that you do every month, then I think that's fine. And as long as you're paying your bills and everything. So maybe it's, you don't get your hair, nails, and everything done, but maybe you get your nails done once a month. Maybe there's that one thing that you do that's that element of self-care, or going out with a friend, or you have one dinner a week, or whatever that looks like for you. Be wise with your money, be mindful, and don't be afraid to treat yourself. It's okay. The next mistake I see a lot of people making is not having an emergency fund. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, I don't have money to put in an emergency fund, which is completely fair, but it's important to at least try to put something away. An emergency fund is exactly what it sounds like. So if something really goes wrong, you have money to fall back on. So whether you lose your job or maybe medical bills because you get into an accident, it's important to have that sort of 3 to 6 months, even a year's worth of savings stowed away in case something happens. Also, make sure that you are putting this money in a high yield savings account. So a high yield savings account is basically where the returns are higher. So when you put your money in a bank, they give you a percentage of that money for keeping your money in their bank. So it's basically they're paying you for having that money in the bank. But typical banks like a Bank of America or a Chase, they give you, 0.5% in returns. But there are different high yield savings accounts, which I'll put in the description box below, where they'll have 4 to 5% of returns, which is a big difference. 0.5 versus 5% is a huge difference. And so this is just an easy way for you to be making money, because as inflation rises, you're losing money by putting it in a regular savings account. So make sure you're putting in a high yield savings account. There's no penalty for taking money out, depending upon what the account is. It's just like a normal savings account, but you're just making more money. And they just typically aren't with like the Bank of America's or the Chase. You have to go to other banks to get them. So whether it's an emergency fund or general savings, you should always keep it in a high yield savings account. The next mistake I see a lot of people making is either getting a credit card and not using it properly, or they're just scared of getting a credit card in general. So if you're someone like me who didn't grow up with money and didn't understand how any of this stuff works, I'm gonna explain it to you. Opening a credit card is a good thing. It can get you travel points, and paying off your bill on time can help build your credit, which can then help you get an apartment lease, a car lease, so on and so forth. So it's important to build credit, but you can't do that if you don't open a credit card. So don't be scared. You can get a credit card that you literally just go and get coffee on. It's not about how much money you pay off every month. It's about, do you actually pay it off on time is what's important. When it comes to paying off credit card debt, let's say you spend $1,000 and you can't pay it off at the end of the month, make sure that you are looking at the interest rates. So basically it's a fee for not paying your bills on time. If you're someone that has multiple credit cards and you have credit card debt, which I had credit card debt as well, here are 2 ways that you can pay off your credit card debt that I would recommend. The first is a snowball effect, which is basically paying off your credit card that has the smallest balance first, and then the money that you would put towards the smaller balance once paid off, you would put towards other balances. But I think this method is better if all the interest rates are about the same. There's also the debt avalanche method, which is taking care of the higher interest rate credit card first, which is what I did when I had close to $12,000 in debt a few years ago. Also remember that not all debt is bad. So when I started my YouTube channel a few years ago, before I was a full-time creator, I knew I needed to have a nice camera. This isn't the camera that I use, I've upgraded, but the camera that I had was $1,000. It was like the Sony a6400, I think. I don't even know if they make it anymore. But I knew I had to create quality, beautiful content. So I got the camera and I got it on credit. And basically, as long as I paid it off within the year, I wouldn't have to pay interest. So I budgeted every month, I would pay off $100 or $100 or so, whatever the math is, get the $1,000 or $1,200 paid off by the end of the year. So I did that and it was definitely worth it. Like, investing in yourself is important, and sometimes it is worth taking that risk. I'm not saying go spend $50,000 on a credit card, but sometimes you have to invest in yourself and invest in your dreams. So don't forget about that as well. The next mistake I see a lot of 20-year-olds making, especially those LA 20-year-olds, is buying a new car. What's crazy, like when I graduated from college and I moved to LA, and all you see are these young 20-year-olds driving their G-Wagons. Well, some of them are making, you know, a lot of money, 50K a month. Sure, get yourself a G-Wagon. But most people are getting themselves expensive cars because they want to look cool. There's so many people that I would meet in LA who drive a Benz or a nice car, but then they have 2 roommates. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So clearly a lot of people are very irresponsible with their money. I know you want to be cool. I know you want that nice car. I know it, I get it. I feel you. I want a nice car too, but you have to set yourself up for the future. Not having a car payment is so freeing. So right now I have a Volkswagen Jetta, and I think my car payment was about $350 a month at the time. And that $350 a month, I'm now putting towards investing instead of putting it towards a car. Because as soon as you drive the car off the lot, the value of it goes down. So I know you want that nice car and you'll get it one day. I promise you, you'll get it one day, but you just have to be a bit patient, and you can't keep up with the Joneses because they're making irresponsible decisions and they're not thinking about their 30, 40, 50-year-old self. Best believe I want my beautiful electric Porsche. I'm gonna use this car until I get my Porsche or whatever nice car that I want. But in order for me to get that Porsche, there's like certain goals that I need to hit. Like, I need to have another business that can pay for that car, and that whatever car payment is basically nothing to me. I just don't think at this point it's like wise to have a car payment if I don't need to, and especially because I travel so much, and I just don't think it's necessary. I think when maybe I have a house or somewhere I can park it, then I would get a car as well, but I park on the street, so I'm not trying to have anyone hit my Porsche. Just don't be one of these LA 20-year-olds who are driving fancy cars but don't got any savings and no real plans for the future. I know it looks cool, but I promise you, if you just give yourself a couple years, passive income to pay for your car payments for your nice car, trust that everything that you want is going to come. You just have to be patient and make wise decisions now. The next mistake I see a lot of young 20-year-olds making, and I made as well, is not having a budget and not knowing what's going in and out of your accounts. There's a quote that says, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. Commit to one day a month of managing your finances and going through your finances and seeing what it is that you're actually spending your money on. There's apps like Rocket Money, for example, where they will tell you subscriptions that you're paying for that you may not realize. And it's just a good way to sort of categorize what you're spending your money on, because you might be like, oh, I just spent way too much money on eating out, or I spent way too much money on travel, or whatever the case may be. And circling back to the first mistake of designing your dream life and knowing what that costs, you have to even know what's coming in and out of your accounts currently to even get to the point of getting to the place of living that dream life and being able to afford that dream life. This brings me to my next mistake that I see a lot of 20-year-olds making, and that is only having one source of income. Honestly, YouTube is such a great resource to find ways to make passive income, to think about business ideas, to just different ways that you can make money. Honestly, everything I know, from how to work this camera, just pretty much everything I know, I learned from YouTube. You have to take that initiative to learn, because honestly, the information is out there. It really is. It's all out there. You just have to say to yourself, okay, I'm gonna dedicate an hour a day to learning A, B, and C so I can sell an ebook, so I can learn how to do YouTube. I like to think, okay, what would a rich person think? And the average millionaire has, I believe, 7 streams of income. I'm gonna Google it and look it up. I forgot what the exact number is, but pretty much no millionaire has just one stream of income. They have multiple streams of income, because if something goes wrong, you lose your job, then what? What do you do? So it's important to have multiple streams of income, have something else to rely on. I think that's one of the big things I'm working on now. Obviously, as a creator, I do brand deals, and there's like affiliate links, and I also do speaking. So there's a variety of different avenues that you can take specifically for when you are a creator. But I am also really trying to figure out other ways to make passive income this year as well. But that's kind of one of the next things I want to do, is build a course, so that could be passive income. But you should always be thinking, okay, like how can I create passive income so I can live my dream life and I'm not working all the time? If that's the life that you want, that's the life that I want. But also just remember, there's an abundance of opportunities out there. If you want something, you can have it. Trust me, I get it. It can be hard, it can be discouraging, but it is possible. Like, I am definitely living proof and a good example of how you can have a dream, teach yourself something, go after it, and achieve it. The last mistake that I see a lot of 20-year-olds making is just saving and not investing. A lot of times people think that, oh, I need to save and then I can invest, but you actually need to be doing both at the same time. For me, I have a certain amount a month that I put towards an investment account, and then I have a certain amount that I put towards savings as well. I would say in the beginning, you want to put more towards savings than investing, because you want to make sure you have that emergency fund, because you really don't want to be touching that money you're investing. Like the money that you put in an investment account, like you should think to yourself, okay, I'm not going to touch this for a very long time. So make sure you're putting money away in an investment account that you can afford to, I wouldn't say lose, but afford to not be able to touch for a very long time. Even if you can only invest $20 a month, it's better than nothing, and it's good to sort of program yourself to have these mindful finance habits. I would also add that the savings account, of course, should be in a high yield savings account. And as far as investments, I'll put, again, links in the description box that you can use as a resource. I hope that you found all these tips helpful. I hope that this encourages you to be more mindful in your finances and to go after the things that you want. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.